It's amazing that you want to join me in a CrossYoga slow class. Today's theme is about patience and about being delayed, or answers, or God being delayed. Welcome to unroll your mats and find a seat. Maybe bring your blocks to this practice today. We'll be sitting for a little bit, so maybe you feel it's comfortable that you should take your block and put it under your sitting bones to elevate your hip. It's just a nicer way to sit often with your spine and with your hips. So if that's helpful, do that. And then close your eyes. And before I say a prayer, just notice the things around you. You might have kids roaming around. You might have air condition or a heater, something noisy around you. Just notice the noise. Inhale. And as you exhale, let it go. Stop focusing on the noises. Then focus on your skin, the outer layer of your body. What do your skin feel? From bottom to top. Take a deep inhale. And let that sensation of the skin go as you exhale. What about your muscles, your joints? Maybe you need to sit a little bit differently. What are your body, the inner parts of your body, the things underneath your skin? Are they communicating anything to you? Inhale and let go of that focus, that attention. As you exhale. And then lastly, your thoughts, your minds. Where are they right now? Or rather, where were they when you sat down just a few moments ago? Inhale and let the thoughts, the minds, wander, surrender it into God's hands. Exhale. And if you want to join me in a prayer, you can do that or just listen in. God, we come to you with all of our being. May we listen to you as the creator of our human beings. Help us not to think that we are gods, that know everything and have the bigger picture. But help us trust. When you say, wait, or when your answers are delayed. Roll your shoulders up, back and down. Maybe following with your breath so that you inhale as you move your shoulders forward and up. Exhale, rotate them back. So as we move on our mat today, and I talk on the topic of God's answer being delayed, I'm mainly focusing on when God is calling us to something, or when there is something that we want or long for that is delayed. So I just want to be mindful of if you're sick or ill and God is not giving you the healing that you're asking for, that might be a little bit of a different perspective on this. Maybe, maybe not. Last shoulder rotation, and let them move down. You can do some movements in your wrists. And as I often do in slow yoga, we will do some postures that have some movements in them in the beginning to warm up the body, and then we'll slow down. So first, tabletop, just to move your block to the side. And you can be free here in tabletop to do all sorts of crazy movements if you like. Make sure your shoulders are involved, the whole of your spine, both the neck and the lumbar spine, the back, the tailbone. And for the next bit, it might be nice, especially if you're a little bit tight in your hamstrings, to get your blocks involved and use them under your hands. So I'm going to show you. So you can take your right leg to the front and just squeeze it to the front, however that works. Now, if you're like me, a little bit mindful about your knees, you can always fold the mat and take one hand on each block and walk your hand to the front. Move your pelvis forward and down, feeling that stretch in your hip flexor and your hamstring. And then you walk your hands back towards the back knee, stretch the front leg, and maybe fold forward. Trying to micro bend this front leg a little bit. And that's basically it. You walk forward and back, not going into the deepest stretch that you can ever get into. So just forward and back. Maybe following your breath, if you can make sense of that. The next time your front knee is bended, move your blocks aside, take your hands down, back knee off, step it back into downward facing dog. So spreading your fingers out as always, moving your hip up, and you can keep moving your legs if it feels nice. And before we do this hip opening thing with the other leg, you can breathe into your plank on knees or on toes, and breathe out as you move back into down dog. A few more times. Inhale to plank. Exhale, down dog. Plank. Down dog. From here, left leg to the front. And again, low lunge, maybe with that knee on the folded part of the mat. So framing the foot, maybe using your blocks or books or whatever you have nearby that's a little bit elevates you or brings the floor closer to you. And walk yourself back. Fold forward under that somewhat stretched front leg. And next time you're with the front knee bended, stay there for a breath. Step the feet back. Get out of your folded mat and find again down dog. Three times to plank and back. Inhale, plank. Core in, look to the front. Exhaling, down dog. Notice how your shoulder girdle is involved here. I almost feel like you're gliding in that girdle forward. And back. Last time. And then find child's pose. If you're full of energy, you will come to stay in down dog. But child's pose, knees on the floor, get some distance in between the knees. Forehead on the mat, and maybe your hands are at the front. And listen to a verse, two verses actually, from James 5, verse 7 and 8. Meanwhile, friends, wait patiently for the master's arrival. You see, farmers do this all the time, waiting for their valuable crops to mature, patiently letting the rain do its slow but sure work. Be patient like that. Stay steady and strong. Probably you saw this picture in your mind of the farmer waiting for his crops. So if he is or she is too impatient, what happens to the crops? If she chooses to harvest the crops before it's time, what happens? The outcome, the output will not be as manifold or as many or as powerful as if the farmer or the gardener is waiting. So maybe as you find tabletop, waiting is also waiting for a more powerful outcome. So if God is delayed, maybe it's because he has something better in mind for us. Tuck your toes under and find down dog yet again. Lift up your right leg. Bend that right knee and open up the hip. Draw the knee out to the side, up towards the ceiling. And keep your hands steady on the floor there. Same with the shoulders. So you really almost feel like you're standing in down dog with your shoulders. You just happen to have that right leg open. Tuck the shoulder blades back and together. Firmly gripping onto the mat. If you can lift that top leg just a tiny bit more, do that. And then slowly close the hip, bring the front leg to the top end of the foot there, to the top end of the mat. Back heel is off, we're gonna find high lunge. So move the knee over the ankle, sink down, getting into those muscles that we opened up as we did our low lunge before or earlier in the class. Let your breath go slow down to the belly and out. Patiently staying here for 2 more breaths. And draw your hands out. Align it with the floor and move your shoulders to the left side. So your left hand moves back, right hand to the front. Let the back hand drop to find the back thigh of the hamstrings. So left hand on the left thigh. And then maybe look to the front and let your right hand reach up. So you're going to a sort of a back bend with the hand on the thigh there. And then lean forward, finding the floor, step the back foot to the top end of the mat. So stay in your forward fold for just a bit. Relax your neck. And maybe move a little bit of your body weight to the front of the foot, the knuckles of the toe. Now, if the floor is far away, again, the blocks might be helpful here. Just a little bit more, the top end of the foot. Might feel the stretch more in your calves as you lean a little bit forward. And then bending the knees, vertebrae by vertebrae, moving into mountain pose. Both hands reach up over your head. Now grasp the right elbow. You bend the right arm, grasp the right elbow, the right fingers there between the shoulder blades, and draw the shoulder to your left side and move the most of your body to your left side for a side bend. As you push here on your elbow down towards the left side, you might feel this here on the back. Let it go. Fold forward again. And release tension in your shoulders. Step it back. Down dog. Either stay here in down dog or maybe do your vinyasa. If you want to do your vinyasa, move into plank. Move forward, shift onto the toes here and lower down. Inhale cobra or up dog. Or maybe you want to stay in child's pose or find downward facing dog. We're going to stay there for a few breaths before we do things on the other side. To me, thinking that when God is delaying things, that it might be because there's something better. If I pick the flower too soon, or if I harvest the crops too soon, I will not see the full outcome of things. So maybe the delay is because there's something better or something else in the future that God has for me. Now lift up your left leg as we did before, bending the knee, open up the hip. Now the standing leg, try to keep that leg standing as you would in your downward facing dog with both legs down. So don't shift to the side or anything like that. Align the shoulders again with the short end of the mat. Drawing the shoulders back. Breathing as you maybe start shaking a little bit from this. Closing out the hip, left foot in between the hands. High lunge. Now you might know that you can always shorten the distance here if you're not want to go too crazy today. So keep the distance in between your feet shorter if you don't want to fatigue completely in your legs, or you just don't have the energy for it today. Be patient with yourself. As always, tucking the tailbone in. Soften the arms as you reach them up overhead. Try to see if all 5 toes, the outer edge of the toes, the phalanges, can actually get down in the mat, kind of gripping. Draw your hands out to the side. And then twist with your spine to your right side. So the front left leg is at the front, left hand is at the front. At the back hand, find the back thigh, and maybe you kind of square off your shoulders just a little bit, palm facing up, lift it up, and lean ever so slightly back. Windmill your arms to the front. Take the back foot to meet the front foot and fold forward as we did before. You might take your hands on your blocks. And you might sigh it out. Giving that frustration that you might feel from God being delayed, or the answer being delayed. It's okay to be frustrated at God. He can carry it. So, bending your knees, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. Mountain pose. Both hands up over your head, this time bending left elbow. Hand behind the shoulder blades. Let your right hand reach the elbow and tuck it behind your head as you move to your right side. Move the hip more to the left side as you lean to the right side. Moving back, a mountain pose, standing tall. Taking your hands, the palms to the front, close your eyes. How often do you tend to want to put yourself in God's shoes and tell God, now is the time. It's right now. Give me what I need, what I ask for, what I long for, or what you called me to do. Open the doors. But maybe as we lean forward, maybe take your hands into prayer pose, lean forward, surrendering, saying, God, not my will, but your will. Let the Creator decide the time for the creation. Lift up halfway, and now it would be a great idea to use a block, or two of them. We'll take them on the high level, and this is a good place also to use a water bottle if it's works for you. Now left arm on the block. Make sure your knees are somewhat aligned, then twist. So draw your right hand up. Your spine is somewhat aligned with the floor. And then we're going to draw some circles standing here. So take that right hand, point it to the front, fingers point to the front. You kind of close in your shoulders, align the shoulders with the floor. Take the hand down, keep the shoulders steady. Take the arm back, and as you move the hand back and up, you draw your shoulder into open twist somewhat, not with the knees not aligned as I did there. And do those circles just a few times. And I'm not following my breath here. I'm just moving my shoulder joint. One last big circle. And as you come down, you switch side. First, twisting. Shoot your sitting bones back. And again, the micro bend in your knees. Draw that left hand to the front. Align the shoulders with the floor. Draw the hand back. Slowly. And up for a twist. Stacking the shoulder as much as possible. And to the front again. And last circle. And from there, moving into mountain pose. Releasing, shaking your legs, what you need. Balance pose, so put your weight on your right leg and let's do tree pose. So either the foot here or somewhere on the inner thigh, really pulling the heel into the inner thigh. And as always, the inner thigh into the heel. And you can stay here with your hand kind of holding on if it tends to drop down. Or you can take your tree pose as we often do with the leaves going here. The left leg, the knee is drawn out to the side so that the hip is open. And slowly come out of it. Release. Shake out any tension. Now we're going to do it on the other side and then find a few stretches. So when you're ready, knee out to the side, always start there. And then you can bend your knee and kind of lift the leg up. And in my knees, I'm better on one side than the other due to some knee issues I have, so you might feel the same. Gaze on the floor. And draw the left side hip into the socket, standing as tall as possible. the leaves fall. Drop the leg down. Slowly forward fold. Step your feet back into down dog. Then come onto your knees. Fold the mat if you want to. I'm going to thread the needle. So take the left arm over the head and then draw the nails on the floor until you reach with your left shoulder down on the mat. Now right hand can either just stay here on top of the head or move behind you, some really like that. Curve back. Same thing on the other side. Right hand up. Fingernails on the floor. Draw that shoulder down. Now, this might not be a deep stretch for you. It might. Now, of course, there is a difference between God saying wait or being delayed, or God saying no. And then, of course, it's a discernment about knowing which is what. And as I was thinking and meditating on that, I think I tend to go for three things. If it's a wait or if it's a no. First of all, I look to the Bible. And I know if you're not into the Bible, that might be a little bit weird, but I look to the Bible. Does what I want or what I long for, what I ask for, does it align with what is written there? And you can get out of it and find tabletop. If it's aligned with what is written in the Bible, first box is checked off. And then the next thing I do is talk to some people that I think are wise. Ask them what they think and what they feel about this topic that I am asking for or longing for or feel is delayed. If they see it as something God has called me to do. If that is a yes, checkbox 2 is on it. And then there's one more. But let's get into the last stretch here for the shoulders. That's called puppy pose. So again, you can use your blocks at the front. If you know that your shoulders are pretty tight, you might not use blocks at all. But I'm going to put them here. Take my hands down. And look, I'm standing on my knees. I'm not in child's pose. And then I drop my head down in between my hands. So I'm like hovering over the floor. If I can reach with my forehands on the floor or my forehead on the floor, I might, lift the blocks up on the higher level and hang down here. So I stretch my arm, my shoulder. Now the last checkbox I need is my own heart. What is my motives for doing what I want to do? Are they selfish? And as I surrender them to God, do I just feel that God is still calling me? There is still this urgency, this heart for the topic or the thing that's on my mind. If that is a yes to, I truly believe that it is God that is just saying, my child, wait. Wait for something better. It will come. Get out of puppy pose and find a seat on the mat. And actually we're going to do butterflies, so you can do whatever you need to with your shoulders. Like the toes or the feet reach together, and maybe lift the hip up and move your hip closer to the heels. Now if you have blocks available, they might be nice to put underneath the knees here for maybe just helping yourself to relax your thighs if you're like tight and you feel like gravity is almost too much pulling your legs down. So if you feel that's helpful, do that. And if you lean more forward, you can even get into the back, lower back, or at least I feel like I get into my lower back. Now the question, of course, is as I wait for God, what is the better, the full harvest? It might not be exactly the picture I have in mind, but if I do trust God as the creator of my body, soul, mind, my ideas, my whole being, I lean in that the better is what God knows is better for me. So when things are delayed, I'm frustrated. God, help us to trust that you know better and you give better when the answer comes or when the door opens. Sit up, gather your knees. One last thing before relaxing. So you're going to use your block. Now if you have a softer version than these cork blocks, it might be really nice. Or you can take a blanket over the blocks if it's too much. And you're going to discern which height is the right for your back. You're going to come down with the feet on the floor, lift up the hip, and put this block, I'm going to take the middle height for now, underneath the sacrum, or the last tip, or the actually two last tips there are the tailbone. And then you might just hang out here as in resting pose. Maybe wiggle your feet further away. Some have no problem with just stretching out like this. Get the psoas hip flexors stretch and a nice back bend. And to me that might be a little bit too much. So do whatever you need. If you feel like the higher level is just the right way to go about it, do that. So palms facing up. Close your eyes. We're going to hang out here for a little bit. If you feel any poking sensation, needle sensation, sharp pain, get out of the posture. Stay with your deep breath. Accepting this awkward back bend, trying to relax thighs, back, and shoulders. One more slow, deep breath. Then walk your feet closer to the hip so that you can lift through the heels, lift your hip up, engage the muscles that have just been hanging over the block, and slowly come down. And as you come down, move the blocks to the side and then hug in your knees. You might not draw them too high up towards the chest, just hold them here and move from side to side a little bit. And then we have resting pose again. So come down on your mat, maybe your favorite part. And this part, at least for some of us who love to be active, this might be hard. And this is where we learn patience and learn that delays may be due to God's timing and what God has in store for us in the future. So melt into the mat. And maybe saying, God, you are the creator. Maybe with your heart saying, God, help me trust in your timing. God, may you guide me day by day. Walking beside you, not after you or before you, but with you holding my hand. And maybe a picture of God holding your hand so you can follow God's steps. I will stay down on my mat today and just say God's blessings on your path. May God keep you safe. Keep pouring patience into your heart. Amen. And thank you for joining me today.